Do you think there is a huge unbalance in attraction level between men and women?
Yes, yes. As we spoke earlier, men just don't know how to trigger real attraction in terms of the neuro science in our brain in women. Men just don't know how to do that, while women just have it naturally by looking good. And that's a huge problem. I mean, how can it be balanced when professors all over the world and all communication experts and neuroscientists, people that they are doctors and professors in neuroscience, for example, when they see that, oh, men can trigger women neuroscientifically, I mean, how does it look? Is no way they're going to be balanced. So I think that many marriages, many relationships, as you said, 70 to 80% of marriages is women taking the initiative to break off. It might be the same thing with relationship, as you also mentioned in one of your clips before. When we're looking in that part, maybe it is that men comes in and feel full attraction for the woman because she's pretty, she's good, is good looking, and she have a certain interest of him and a certain amount of attraction, but just a certain amount. And with the interaction they had together, it's not really there, it's not really sticky. So what happens then? Well, she felt a lot less attracted to the man than the opposite. And it's not because he'd only make $80,000 a year and another guy make 150. No, it's because he couldn't trigger the neurotransmitters that was linked to attraction. And here's the important part. You probably heard about the hormone and the neurotransmitter oxytocin. That is sort of the love hormone we used to speak about in the nice neuroscientific world. So oxytocin is a brain molecule, let's say molecule, a neurotransmitter that makes you feel love. So if you're a mother and you have a daughter, your oxytocin level is pretty high connected with that daughter because you're the mother, right? So you feel strong love towards your daughter. When it comes to romantic situation, that oxytocin, in order for it to be really strong, so you can feel strong feelings for a man, the attraction has to be there in the beginning, the initial attraction. Because if there is very little attraction, and specifically sexual attraction, there won't be any strong love in the end. And you know that by yourself. Everyone knows that. We have to have that kind of spark, attraction spark in the beginning, enable to evolve with the relationship. But if men can communicate in the way that gives the balance between the attraction neuroscientifically with men and women, between men and women, how can relationship be good then? It's very
Yeah, so
hard to survive that.
you're saying if they don't learn the language basically to
Mm.
trigger it, then you'll never get there.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. You
You
know,
never get it.
I had a woman on my show recently, and
Mm.
we were talking about how women will date men with no jobs, and the men with jobs are they're baffled at how these men with no jobs can get these women, but it's because the men with no jobs have all this time, so they learn the language of women. And they
Yeah.
just learn to be charming. And then the men, I mean, the men that haven't learned the language and and obvious, like it's not black and white, obviously, but you guys get my point. They're like baffled. They're like, what are they doing? But the guys that get it, like they understand exactly what's going on. It's like they're charming.
Yeah. So basically, in attraction, it's much more how women feels being with that man than what she sees in him before she's being with him, if you get my point. The
Mhm.
attraction is building up with time during interactions with that particular man. It's so many times, and you also, and all other women, there are so many women there out there that in the beginning didn't like her boyfriend that much, but that particular boyfriend became her type in the end.
Mhm.
So she learned. So those men that have the language, and those men that have, even though they haven't been schooled, they have a certain element of it. So they could actually reach to a pretty high attractiveness level in those women. And many of those women said that, oh, he was not in my range before, no way. But once I start learning about him, I get more and more attracted, and he became my type.
Mhm.
I've seen that so many times. So I'm a strong believer of really being able to trigger the attraction switches in women in the right way. I mean, I'm a scientist here in that sense. If the key was to jump on one leg, then I would say jump on one leg and she would be attracted to you. But that is not the case. I'm looking at what is it that actually attract women. This is it. This is what actually attracts women. And it's not something new actually. It is relationship building communication, and that is called interpersonal communication. It's a difference between interpersonal communication, which involves a lot of relationship building and emotional connection, compared with normal communication skills, which is more focused on transaction of information in the right way. So we have to differ those two communication styles. So yeah, and we also have another aspect that I feel is super important in order to learn that language. I love when you said the language, is that once you start to learn about listening skills, how to listen to women, and from that create conversations that are interesting, what we are doing now is that we are enhancing our cognitive function in our brain. It's because it's a lot of cognitive engagement when we're having a social conversation with people. When we're having conversation with people, they can go either way. The brain have to learn how to adapt through something we call experience-dependent plasticity. It's like a neuroscience term. So we're actually creating new neural pathways to handle complex situations. And have a conversation with many different people is a complex situation. So once you get into the area of like, you know what, I'm going to make a conscious decision to make this conversation about her. And I'm going to listen very carefully. And I'm going to be curious about the things that she's saying, because I want to know the underlying reason of why she's thinking a certain thing or why she's doing a certain thing. Then you train your brain to handle complex ideas and situations. That is very different from something I used to call habituation. We will get into that later. But in order to learn conversational skills, you become a better man. You become a better person. You evolve as a human intellectually. So your emotional intelligence becomes really strong. If you look at the dating coaches today, many of them, or the pickup artist community, what they are learning is certain routine, scripted material. Jordan Peterson used to call it instrumental language, which means that you're learning a certain way of attracting women that is very limited. So you become really good at that limited thing. So you become a habit. But the problem with just becoming a habit is that the neural pathways doesn't form for you to handle complex situations. So you just become good at one routine.
Right.
Yeah, like one specific story or one specific jokes. But it doesn't give you the cognitive flexibility to be good with people. So being good with women is actually just a part of social skills.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence and social skills. And social skills, we know, have to be trained all the time to be better and better and better at it. Does it make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, that's Michael's field, so he'll take that one.
Okay.
So there is another thing. Yeah,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Okay, so there is another thing I want to mention as well. That is a psychological principle that is extremely strong, and that is reciprocity in attraction. It's a very, very strong concept. So when we look at reciprocity, and we look at men, for example, when a woman just smiles to a man that is attractive, that very basic level of showing interest towards him, a very basic level, may spark the attraction like crazy in a man, like crazy. But so that man is like, oh, she likes me, I'm all in. But in order to replicate that idea, to reciprocate, it's not enough for him to smile back and that's it. You see? So women are much more complex than that. So, because there is a saying and saying goes like this: we tend to like people that like us, and we tend to love people that love us. We want to reciprocate that back to balance our brain, basically. Mm-hmm. So when someone likes us, we want to like them back. But the thing is that when a woman smiles to a man, it's enough for the man to get into that level to feel like, oh, she likes me. But the other way around requires a lot more. So while men are having need a basic level of interest from women, women need a very complex level for men to feel the same way. Like, oh, he likes me. Not only sexually, but he likes me. Now we're going into the area of what I used to call the empathy. We have to want to learn things about her so she can understand that we want to understand her, for her to feel like that guy likes me and therefore I like him back. You see, but men get that wrong. They think that when a woman smile to a man, we just smile back and maybe flex our muscles and that's it. We created a balance. No. It doesn't really work that way. So if we go into the field of psychology now, it's like, there's another guy named Dr. John Howard, is one of the leading psychotherapists out there. He was saying that what women need in the beginning is a feeling of safety and trust. And before we have obtained a certain amount of safety and trust, nothing else will actually sink in. So what is safety and trust in women? Well, if we go back 10,000 years ago, it might have been, or maybe 100,000 years ago, it might be a caveman protecting you from the predators in the cave. Or you killing the bear and bringing the meat into the cave as well. But our brain is very complex. We evolve with time. And we used to call it structural plasticity, or our prefrontal cortex in our brain adapting to new environments. So if we're going to look at what safety and trust is in the modern world, it's actually more about emotional safety and emotional trust, basically. It's not about we will give you money or something. It's more about emotional safety and emotional trust. And what is linked to emotional safety and trust is actually understanding. We tend to feel safe with people that understands us. We trust people that understands us. And now we're going into the area of empathy. Empathy is extremely important for men to be able to utilize.
What do you mean by empathy?
So when we're talking about empathy, so what is empathy? Maybe many people doesn't know what empathy is. Empathy is actually based on understanding. People get it wrong. People get it connected with compassion or sympathy. You see, empathy has nothing to do with those parts. Actually, it's more about just understanding. So if I could understand your situation based on being on your shoes, then I have a certain amount of real understanding about you. And if I can communicate that I understand you in that way, it's extremely powerful. It doesn't mean that I agree with you. It doesn't mean that I feel sorry for you. I just understand you being in your shoes. I understand you. So that part is very, very important. And people get it wrong. People think that you have to agree with women all the time. You don't have to agree with them, but you have to understand them.
Right.
And now we're going into depth again. In order to be able to understand women, we have to go into depth in conversation. So we're getting back into the same loop here. We have to understand the underlying reason for things. Like I did with you when we're talking about like why you like Chicago exactly. Now I know it's not actually baseball, which many people think. It's actually the atmosphere around baseball that matters for you.
Yeah.
Understand. So that's basically what I mean. Psychologists and psychotherapists and all other people that knows communication all over the world knows that empathy in communication is a superpower without any doubt. They classify it as a superpower. So
and I think that skill transfers to people that are very likable. You know, they can understand how other people feel, like people that are naturally charismatic. I can totally see that.
Yeah, they're actually coming from the theory of likability.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same area. But many people think that, but that likability and those communication concepts, is that applied dating? Well, they're wrong. It's actually referred to dating more than they think. It's like more than general communication here. So I'm really confused why not so many people actually came up with these proven things in the society. Really, and I feel really hurt to see so many guys out there struggling with women, really, and they are clueless. People think that if you are successful up here, you have everything. But I've seen so many guys having all of those things and they have nothing. They really have nothing.
They'll
Yeah,
get
you've seen
like
it.
it'll be guys that will it actually amazes me, Ben, that can run multi-million dollar corporations, or they'll be so good in every other area of their life, but they have women running circles around them in their personal life, or they can't tell their wife no. Like it actually amazes me. There'll be guys that have like they order around people at work. You know, and you're like, how are you afraid of your wife? Like of all people. You know what I mean?
Uh, so there's another factor that you mentioned there actually is like those rich guys that or successful guys that seems to have a lot of women running around chasing them. I hope many women don't take it wrong, but those women, what I've seen, tend to be women that doesn't belong to the area of having a lot of male attention either. They put a lot of
Mm,
makeup and they're running around with those men, chasing those men. But when
yeah.
it comes to women that have a lot of male attention, what I've seen is that they don't give a damn as a rule. I mean, they are women, they are men in all stages in life chasing them. And they've done that since they were 13 years old. They don't give a damn if you're even a CEO in a big company or something like that. They just want to be with someone they feel good with.
Yeah.
But then we have the gold diggers area, and there was another study that actually looked into the gold diggers mentality and so on, and they've seen that those women doesn't belong to the area of being very popular in school, being very popular with men. It's like a couple of steps downwards often, and
Mm,
and then they act and behave differently. If that makes sense for you as well. So
mhm.
if we're talking about women, they have male attention, and who are they? Well, pretty women. I mean, they have men all over their life, and their skill of seeing who is real and who is not real is unbelievable. Their
Mm,
neuroplasticity evolving with time is just unbelievable good. So they know directly who is the real guy here, and who is just the guy who just playing around or using some weird stuff, routine games and so on, like gimmicks.
yeah.
So it's very hard to get away from, and I think that you can spot those guys as well. If someone comes up to you and trying to make some kind of game, you will feel like something is odd with him.